Welcome to the Weege Show after a fantastic finale in the 7 Supercross races that we weren't even sure if we'd even see. Not only did they happen, but they turned out to be probably even better than we expected. So good. Let's do 2 Weege shows. One 450 here, and then I'll do another one on that nutty group of kids in the 250 class. This, of course, all brought to you by Racetech and their gold valves. Yes, they'll bring you both shows. Why not? Gold valves make your suspension plusher, better bottoming resistance, more traction. Those are things you would really need if you're trying to negotiate a track like we got in the day race. Today, we're back to the super hard, dry, and according to Zach Osborne, pothole conditions. Today, like we had at the first Utah race, which was running Sunday afternoon, you really need good suspension. So go to racetech.com for more on how to get those. But there's a much bigger picture story to talk about than just bike setup here. It's Eli Tomac finally getting it done. And I want to give Eli credit for 2 things. First, obviously winning this championship, but second, the way he's reacted since. Because tonight there was a post-race press conference after the event on Zoom. And unfortunately for Eli, as I said in the pre-race Weege show, he has come to be defined by being so fast, so good, and not being able to pull off this 450 Supercross championship. So now that he's finally done it, and he did it in grand style. He had a great season. He never had any of the bad races that we expect, not just from him, but from almost any rider. He was phenomenally consistent this year, even with the 3-month icing of the kicker and allowing him to think about the pressure of winning that title and then racing these events in weirdo fashion. Good starts, bad starts, mud, dry, whatever. Eli was great. So on the track, well done. But off the track, I want to credit him for this. The post-race press conference, almost every question from the media seemed to center around Eli. You haven't gotten this done before. You had mistakes before. How good does it feel to finally get it done? Nearly every question that was lobbed his way was tinged with the, it used to be bad, but now it's good. And here's why I give Eli credit. He's owned that. He's looking at the mirror. He's admitting that he has messed this thing up in the past. And I feel like nowadays athletes don't do that. There's become this, you never believed in me, everyone doubted me narrative that athletes love to use. And even though most of the time when people doubt them and don't believe in them, it's based on some really solid evidence of, well, the data says this guy has messed this up before. I'm not just making this up. I'm not just a hater. Athletes don't want to hear that. They usually just claim that people are haters for no reason, and they should have never been doubted. Eli owned the fact that the last couple of seasons, he said most of the time he just put it to he wasn't ready enough at the beginning of the season, didn't have the bike where he needed it to be, and the first couple of races were tough. And then there were some other races that he just let slip away. Either way, it didn't work out, and he admitted that. He also admitted that he's in a different mental state. He doesn't feel the emotional highs and lows and ups and downs this year that he has in a previous time. So maybe it's maturity. He's not sure exactly what it is, but either way, he's different. It showed on the track. He's finally got this championship. And now eventually we can start shifting into the narrative of how good is Tomac all time, which, as I mentioned in the pre-show, was the conversation we could not have until he finally got this title. But I just respect the fact that he admitted on himself that he's let these championships slip away. And then it was interesting. What you normally hear riders say is that first title is just joyous. It's joyous. And then if you try to win a bunch in a row, Ryan Villopoto said this most recently to me, the second one is good because you've proven you can defend it. And then after that, everything beyond is just pressure. Winning that third, or in Villopoto's case, fourth, the joy is gone. It just becomes relief. Thank goodness I didn't blow it this time. But it's reversed for Tomac. He said the word relief literally 3 times in an answer. He said the feeling right now, it's not overjoyed. It's relief, relief, relief to have finally gotten this done. That's just the kind of pressure that he put on himself. He was really starting to think it might slip away and it might not happen. He did make it happen. He rode solid tonight. I don't even think the result matters. I'm going to look here. I don't even remember. He got 5th. It doesn't matter where he finished. He won the title. And honestly, the title was pretty much his as soon as Cooper Webb went down in the first turn. Webb had to win the race to have any chance of the title. He wasn't going to win. It was a bad race for Webb. He ended up 8th. Ken Roczen went down early. He finished 7th. I don't know who had Tomac, Roczen, Webb on the, 5, 7, 8 result sheet coming into this one. No one expected that. So who was up front? How about the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna team, which has had a renaissance time in Utah? They've been great. I guess when you're talking Husky Renaissance, you're probably talking about like 1970s when they owned the sport. I mean, they were running 1, 2, 3 for the entire main. It's unbelievable. And eventually it became obvious, Roczen after an early crash, or Webb, they weren't coming through. Tomac wasn't interested in coming through the pack. They were going to win it. It was just a matter of which guy would win. First, Dean Wilson led, and I can only think of one other time, literally, where Dean Wilson, in his Husky days, which is the last couple of years, has had a good start, and that was Anaheim 1 last year, where he nearly won it. He led for a while, then Jason Anderson got by, and Zach Osborne ran with Anderson, and they were all over each other for a long time, and everyone is probably 50-50. Everyone had to pick their sides. Will Anderson hold Osborne off? Will Osborne get Anderson? It was going to be close. They both had different strengths. Anderson better in the whoops. Zacho better in some of the rhythms, like landing on a table and coming into a right-hander. But then it started working in Anderson's favor late. Turns out because Osborne lost a side panel on his bike and he was getting burned by his exhaust pipe. And then as the racing gods would have it, mechanical problems in a roundabout way for Anderson when his seat falls off and Osborne's able to get by. Osborne had already given up and figured he'd finish second. He wins the race, his first ever Supercross win in the 450 class. Anderson takes second, Wilson third. The team sweeps the podium on a night where 2 of the 3 bikes had parts fall off. That has to be a record. Now for Osborne, this is awesome. It's something that was building. He's ridden great at all the races in Utah. He's been a podium guy. He led a bunch previous race. He knew that this was the opportunity to get it done. And none other than Mitch Payton, the great Mitch Payton, who's been around so many winners and champions, has always said, you almost need the first win to kind of happen on accident to know you really can do it, and then it starts to get easier. Well, that's the way it worked for Osborne. He didn't have to contend with Roczen, Webb, or Tomac this time. And Anderson might have got him if the seat hadn't fallen off, but it doesn't matter. You need that first win to just fall into place, and now officially, permanently, Zacho believes he can win these things. He was just that far off at the previous events, and now he's got that little something. So this is going to make him dangerous, and it's really good that he managed to get it before the season was over because he was riding so well, and it almost slipped away. He had one race to get it done, and he did. As for Anderson, that's kind of a bummer for him. Obviously, he would have had his first win since 2018 if the seat hadn't fallen off. It was a wild, nutty night. It really was. Or day. That's how nutty it was. It was a day race, and there weren't fans. And it was so strange for Tomac to win the championship, probably the biggest, not even probably, for sure, the biggest moment of his racing career, cross the finish line and just throw his bike on a bike stand like he had just finished a practice moto by himself. Then eventually his mechanic, Brian Kranz, long-time mechanic, Kranz has been with him nearly his entire pro career since the Geico Honda days, finally got to him, they hugged. Eli did say it was kind of a bummer to not have fans, to have his mom and dad not be able to join him down there, due to all the social distancing rules. But at the same time, he said, look, it would have been terrible if this thing wrapped up after Daytona and they didn't get these races in. He's just happy that the races happened at all. And some of the 250 riders felt the exact same way. They had to keep reminding themselves, at least they get to do what they love to do for a living. And on one other note with Tomac, he doesn't show a lot of emotion. It's kind of weird to hear him talk about no longer having the emotional highs and lows anymore, when we didn't even know he used to have them. You don't really hear much about what Tomac's motivation is, or what his joy is, or where his love comes from. He said in his press conference, now that he's fully relieved and is just letting everything go, that it really comes down to the fact that he just loves riding a motorcycle, and he's still not burnt out in any way, shape, or form on actually riding. Maybe the travel a little bit, but the riding part, he still loves riding a motorcycle. Obviously, we assume Tomac got here because of his love of riding, but I don't feel like we ever actually heard him express that. And he's now the oldest first-time Supercross champion, I believe. He's right up there with Emig, when Emig won in 97. And Daniel Blair broke this one on the NBC broadcast, that he's the first father to win, because he now has a 2-month-old son. First father to ever win a Supercross title. So Eli's been around a long time, age-wise, dad-wise. He's getting older, but he says the joy of riding is still there. He loves riding a motorcycle. And remember, he wants to be an athlete. It would have been so easy to follow his parents into the path of bicycle racing, but he loves riding dirt bikes. And it's refreshing to hear that that's where it really all comes from with Eli Tomac, because, you know, he's not outgoing super much with the fans and the media. I don't think we see the joy. It's there. And right now it's there more than ever. He has finally won the championship. So congrats to Eli Tomac. I'll have a 250 show coming up, but I do just want to send out some thanks to you folks for still watching these shows. I know the killer app of the Weege Show is walking and talking in the pits and getting to interact with people, and we haven't been able to do that because even when I was in Utah, we weren't allowed. Social distancing rules. I got no problem with that because guess what? We had 7 Supercross races that probably shouldn't have happened. They ended up happening. Whatever rules it took to get that done, great job. So I thank you folks for watching because really the show just turned out to be me ranting by myself in my office. Occasionally my kid was involved. I mean, that's a big drop off from talking to riders in the pits. And I don't know when we'll return to that. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross will start July 18th, but I don't know what the rules are going to be there. It might just be me and you and your comments at the bottom. But I appreciate the positive thoughts. Yes, on YouTube. Actually, positive comments. And I thank you folks for watching. And I got more people to thank when we get to our next show from the 250s with those nutty kids.